So our next topic is how to increase value in your rent prices at an apartment complex. Now, in a prior Keeping It Realty episode, we did talk about some improvements and upgrades you can make to your actual apartment unit that could get you some more rent. But there's another factor to increase in rent is the actual complex itself. You could do everything you want to the actual interior of a unit, but if your complex is crappy, well, you're still not going to get those top market rents. So what are some very cheap ways in order to upgrade your complex? Number one, right off the bat, is landscaping. It's amazing what you can do with some simple, low maintenance trees, bushes, and really just dressing up the landscape. Or if you have a lot of dead grass areas or areas that have really nothing going on, put in some artificial turf, put in some picnic benches, very simple stuff that wouldn't increase any liability risk to you, but at the same time improve the overall feel of the building. Typically, new paint jobs are a good way of sprucing up the building, along with giving the building a specific name. Especially if you have a building that was built in the 50s or 60s, one of the things you'll notice is that a lot of the signage, the original signage, is still there, and it just looks horrible and outdated. So simply getting a new sign up on the property gives pride of ownership. And when tenants see that the landlord has a pride of ownership in the building, they're happy and want to live in that building. Brian, do you have any suggestions?
Well, a lot of the different things that Marc is talking about, essentially what they do is they create demand. People want to live there because it's nice for all these various reasons, whether the weather's good, it's very walkable to different places, the outside is pretty, it's got a cool name. And as you increase demand for this property, people are willing to pay more. So that is actually the way the value is going up, by simply making it more appealing. Some places are a dump, like in San Francisco. You'll find places that have not been taken care of, but by simple supply and demand, the rents are high. Now, like as Marc is bringing out, as you're making it more appealing for a tenant to live there, you create the better tendency for tenants to compete for that unit, and therefore be willing to pay for a little bit more.
Plus, it also helps decrease the amount of vacancies you have, because people then want to stay living at the property, and they're more willing to accept rent increases and more willing to sign long-term lease renewals because of that. We have one building right now that we're working on that is a very old 1930s style duplex style complex. So there's like 10 duplexes, and it's all part of one complex. Now the windows have no framing around them.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it's stucco siding. So one of the very simple things we're going to do is basically...
Which one is that one?
It's over in Hayward.
Oh.
One of the very simple things we're going to do is put some simple wood trimming around the window and create windowsills on all the windows.
So it's just a facade.
Exactly.
It's not a real trim.
Correct.
You're just dressing it up.
Correct. So we're doing that. We're going to give the entire complex a new paint job. There's some old square wooden posts that what we're going to do is... put kind of like some crown molding around it to make it look like they're thicker columns, and it really add a lot of different feel to it. We're putting in 3D numbers that you can buy at Home Depot for very cheap. They sit like maybe half an inch off the wall, but it gives a 3D feel to it. And in an empty space we have at the complex, we're going to put a few trees to give some shade, put in a new picnic area, and some simple stuff like that. You'll be surprised. It makes a big difference. Pride of ownership, again.
In fact, one of the things you just touched on, creating a common area for the tenants to gather around. Like in some of the larger complexes, it's possible to do this where you have little picnic areas by the pool or have community barbecues to kind of give that feel-good atmosphere to the tenants, that they're appreciated for being there. That also increases value. It's harder to do that on smaller units like 4-plexes or 6-plexes, where you're not going to have a lot of open space. But in larger complexes that we manage, like the 85-unit buildings or 90-unit buildings, where there's pools and walkways, those little things that we do for the tenants also make it a nicer place to live, and makes the landlord happier because you have better retention and people willing to pay more to live there.
Yeah, and if you have a driveway or parking lot that needs to be repaired or needs to be redone, get someone to come in and redo it. Now, those can be very expensive and pricey, so that's something that you have to consider when you're calculating your numbers and your figures. So there's a lot that can be done, very simple stuff that doesn't cost a lot of money. Sometimes with larger complexes, it may come down to, if you have a parking issue that makes the building look really bad, is simply going through, repainting parking spots, getting them assigned to tenants, making sure you have the proper fire lanes marked in, and just giving it a nice clean look. It goes a long way.